Most people think buying ground beef is one of the simplest decisions they make all week. Walk into a grocery store, grab a package, toss it into the cart, cook it that night. Simple, or at least that's what millions of shoppers believe. But behind those plastic-wrapped packages is a system most consumers never see. A system where 1 pound of ground beef can contain meat from dozens of different animals. A system where a single mistake can affect thousands of families across multiple states before anyone realizes there's a problem. And that's exactly why ground beef has remained one of the most frequently recalled meat products in America. Not because every package is dangerous, but because the way ground beef is produced creates risks that whole cuts of beef simply don't have. According to food safety experts and the USDA, grinding meat dramatically increases the opportunity for bacteria to spread throughout the product if contamination occurs during processing. That's why choosing where you buy your ground beef matters far more than most people realize. Some grocery chains invest heavily in supplier oversight, cold chain management, and quality control. Others have faced repeated questions after recalls, supplier issues, or inconsistent handling practices. Today, we're looking at 16 of America's biggest grocery chains. This isn't about fear. It's about patterns, public recall records, food safety practices, supplier transparency, and what those patterns reveal about the meat sitting in refrigerated cases across the country. Some names on this list probably won't surprise you. Others almost certainly will. And by the end, you'll know exactly what to look for before buying your next package of ground beef. Let's start with a chain whose biggest problem isn't necessarily the beef itself. It's everything that happens before it reaches your shopping cart. Number 12, Dollar General has become one of the fastest growing retailers in America. For millions of people, it's the closest place to buy groceries, especially in rural communities where full-size supermarkets may be miles away. That convenience is hard to ignore. But convenience isn't the same thing as specialization. Unlike traditional grocery stores, many Dollar General locations were originally designed around packaged goods, not fresh meat. Over time, refrigerated and frozen food sections expanded. That created new challenges. Fresh and frozen products rely on one thing above almost everything else: temperature. Ground beef must remain consistently cold from the processing plant to the distribution center, from the truck to the store, and finally into your cart. Break that cold chain for too long, and bacteria can multiply much faster, even if the meat still looks perfectly normal. Investigations over the years have found that some Dollar General locations struggled with refrigeration issues and food safety compliance, leading to regulatory action involving refrigerated and frozen foods. That doesn't automatically mean every location is unsafe. Far from it. Many stores operate without major problems. But the pattern reminds shoppers of something important. A grocery chain can only sell safe food if it consistently maintains the systems required to protect it. And those systems become harder to manage across thousands of locations. What makes this even more interesting is that ground beef often gives very few warning signs. It doesn't always smell bad. It doesn't always change color. Sometimes the only indication something went wrong comes after it's already been eaten. Which brings us to another retailer where the biggest concern isn't always the product itself. It's the complexity of the supply chain behind it. Number 11 Walmart No Company sells more groceries in America than Walmart. Its buying power is enormous. Its distribution network stretches across the country. Its low prices attract millions of shoppers every single day. At first glance, that sounds like an advantage. And in many ways, it is. Large retailers often work with major meat processors that operate under strict federal inspection. But size creates another challenge. Scale. When one supplier provides ground beef to hundreds or even thousands of stores, a single recall can spread incredibly fast. Instead of affecting one neighborhood supermarket, it can affect multiple states almost overnight. Over the years, Walmart has sold ground beef included in several supplier-initiated recalls involving concerns such as potential contamination. That doesn't mean Walmart produced the beef. In most cases, recalls originate with processors or suppliers. Still, consumers experience the recall through the store where they made the purchase. That's an important distinction. Retailers don't always process the meat, but they do choose suppliers. They decide which products fill their shelves, and they play a key role in communicating recalls to customers. The bigger the retailer, the bigger that responsibility becomes. There's another detail many shoppers overlook. Ground beef sold under different labels may actually come from the same processing facilities. Different branding. Same source. That's why judging safety by packaging alone can be misleading. The name on the label doesn't always tell the whole story. And the next chain highlights exactly why transparency has become such a valuable part of modern food safety. Number 10, Kroger operates more supermarkets than almost anyone else in the United States. Depending on where you live, you might know it by a completely different name. Ralph's, King Soopers, Fred Meyer, Fry's, Smith's, among many others. Different signs. One massive grocery network. That scale allows Kroger to negotiate with large suppliers while also offering regional products. For shoppers, that means more choice. But it also means sourcing can vary depending on location. One store's ground beef may come from a different processor than another store just a few states away. That isn't necessarily a problem. In fact, diversified sourcing can sometimes reduce supply disruptions. The challenge is consistency. Consumers rarely know where their package actually originated without carefully reading labels or checking lot information. Over the years, some beef products sold through Kroger stores have been included in supplier recalls, prompting public notifications and product removals. Again, that's not proof the retailer itself caused the issue. It's evidence of how interconnected today's food system has become. One processing facility, multiple brands, dozens of grocery chains, thousands of stores, millions of customers. That's the hidden reality behind modern ground beef. And once you understand that system, something becomes clear. Choosing a grocery chain is only one piece of the puzzle. Knowing how to recognize safer products inside that store may matter even more. Because later in this countdown, we'll look at several grocery chains that have invested heavily in sourcing transparency, in-store butchers, and quality control practices that can make a meaningful difference when buying fresh meat. But before we get there, the next few chains reveal a pattern that's even more surprising. It's not always the biggest stores that create the biggest questions. Sometimes it's the stores consumers trust the most. Number 9, Aldi has built its reputation on one simple promise. Keep prices low. Cut unnecessary costs. Pass the savings to shoppers. It's a strategy that has earned an incredibly loyal customer base. But when it comes to ground beef, low prices naturally raise a question. Where do those savings come from? The answer isn't always lower quality. In many cases, it's a smaller product selection, fewer employees, simpler store layouts, and highly efficient distribution. Still, ground beef is only as reliable as the system behind it. Like nearly every major retailer in America, Aldi has sold products that were later included in supplier recalls. When that happens, the company typically removes affected products quickly. But recalls reveal something many shoppers overlook. Even stores with strong reputations depend on outside processors. Your grocery store may not grind the beef. It may not package it. It may never even touch the product until it arrives on a refrigerated truck. That means the real story often starts long before the meat reaches the shelf. And that brings us to another retailer with a very different business model, one that creates its own set of challenges. Number 8, Target. Most people don't think of Target as a grocery store. They think of clothes, electronics, home decor. Then they remember, oh, I need groceries too. That's exactly how Target designed the experience. Food is just one department inside a much larger retail operation. Over the years, the company has expanded its grocery offerings significantly, fresh meat included. But unlike traditional supermarkets, many Target locations devote far less floor space to fresh food. That makes inventory management especially important. Ground beef has a limited shelf life. Every package depends on careful temperature control, timely rotation, and proper handling. If any step slips, quality can decline quickly. Target has also sold products involved in supplier-initiated recalls over the years. Again, that's not unusual in today's food system. What's important is how quickly retailers respond, how effectively they remove products, and how clearly they communicate with customers. Because once a recall is announced, every hour matters. The faster contaminated products leave store shelves, the fewer people are exposed. Which raises an even bigger question. What if the meat never gets recalled? Number 7, Save a Lot, Save a Lot serves communities looking for affordable groceries. Its smaller footprint helps keep operating costs down. That can be a major advantage for families on tight budgets. But smaller stores often have fewer employees covering more responsibilities. Stocking shelves, running registers, cleaning, managing refrigerated cases. Everything happens with a lean team. That doesn't automatically reduce food safety. Many small stores operate exceptionally well. But experts have long emphasized that fresh meat requires constant attention. Temperatures must be monitored, products rotated, expired packages removed, display cases maintained. These are daily tasks, not occasional ones. And when staffing is stretched thin, consistency becomes even more important. That's why shoppers should never assume every package inside the same cooler has spent the same amount of time there. Take a closer look. Check the sell-by date. Look for excessive liquid inside the package. Notice whether the wrapping is tight. Small details often tell a much bigger story. But those aren't the only clues hiding in plain sight. There's another one almost nobody checks. Number 6, Food for Less. Here's something surprising. Many shoppers decide which ground beef to buy in less than 10 seconds. Price, weight, into the cart. Done, but food safety specialists recommend looking much closer. Packaging matters. Vacuum seals, leaks, torn plastic, excess moisture. All of these can signal handling issues. Food for Less, like many discount-focused supermarkets, relies on high product turnover. When products move quickly, that's generally a positive sign. Fresh inventory replaces older inventory. But turnover isn't identical at every location. Some stores move meat much faster than others. That's why two shoppers visiting different stores under the same company can have completely different experiences. It's another reminder that a chain's reputation tells only part of the story. The specific store, its management, its employees, and its food safety culture often matter just as much. By now, a pattern should be starting to emerge. Ground beef safety isn't determined by one decision. It's built through dozens of small decisions happening every single day. And that leads us to a grocery chain that has faced repeated scrutiny for reasons extending beyond fresh meat alone. Number 5, Family Dollar. Family Dollar wasn't originally built around fresh groceries. Like several discount retailers, food became a larger part of the business over time. The challenge? Expanding into perishables demands an entirely different level of operational discipline. Warehouses, refrigeration, transportation, inventory tracking. Every link matters. In recent years, regulatory actions involving some Family Dollar distribution operations raised serious concerns about broader food storage practices. While those actions weren't focused solely on ground beef, they highlighted an important lesson. Consumers don't just buy products, they buy systems. Every package sitting in a refrigerated case has already traveled through warehouses, distribution centers, delivery trucks, storage rooms, and finally onto the shelf. If one part of that chain breaks down, problems can follow the product all the way to the customer. At this point, you may have noticed something unexpected. None of these stories are really about one grocery chain. They're about an entire industry. A package of ground beef looks simple, but it's actually the final stop in a long journey involving ranches, processors, inspectors, distributors, warehouses, trucks, employees, and store managers. Every step has to work, every single day. Miss one temperature check, miss one sanitation procedure, miss one damaged package. And the consequences can spread much farther than most people imagine. That's why food safety experts constantly repeat the same message. Safe meat isn't created by luck. It's created by systems. And the higher we move in this countdown, the more those systems begin to reveal where consumers should pay the closest attention. Because the next 4 grocery chains expose an even bigger issue, one that has less to do with price and much more to do with transparency. Number 4, Meijer has earned a solid reputation across the Midwest for offering everything from fresh produce to full-service pharmacies under one roof. For many shoppers, it's a trusted one-stop destination. But even trusted retailers aren't immune to the realities of the modern meat industry. Over the years, some beef products sold at Meijer stores have been included in supplier-issued recalls. Those recalls didn't necessarily originate with Meijer itself. They originated earlier in the supply chain. That's the pattern we've seen throughout this countdown. A grocery store doesn't always produce the meat, but it does decide who supplies it. The best retailers respond quickly. They remove affected products, they notify customers, and they work with suppliers to prevent similar issues. Still, every recall serves as a reminder that trust should never replace attention. Before a package reaches your cart, take a few extra seconds. Check the packaging. Check the sell-by date. Look for leaks or excess liquid. Those simple habits can tell you far more than the brand name alone. And the next retailer shows why reputation can sometimes create a false sense of security. Number 3, Publix. Publix consistently ranks among America's favorite grocery chains. Clean stores, friendly employees, well-stocked meat departments. It's easy to see why customers trust it. That trust is valuable, but it shouldn't become automatic. Like other national and regional retailers, Publix has sold products that were later included in supplier recalls. Again, that doesn't mean the company processed contaminated meat. It means today's food system is deeply connected. One processor, several brands, multiple grocery chains, thousands of stores. Consumers often imagine every grocery chain has its own independent meat supply. In reality, that's rarely the case. A single processing facility can provide products to numerous retailers under different labels. That's why reading recall notices is more important than focusing on store names alone. Sometimes the exact same recalled product appears in several different supermarkets at the same time. And that's where informed shoppers gain an advantage. They don't just recognize logos, they recognize patterns. But the next chain illustrates another factor that many consumers overlook entirely. Number 2, Safeway walk through Safeway's meat department, and everything appears exactly as it should. Bright lighting, neatly arranged packages, well-organized displays. It looks reassuring. But appearance alone doesn't tell the whole story. Ground beef can remain visually appealing even when problems exist that only laboratory testing can detect. That's one reason the USDA emphasizes safe handling and proper cooking rather than relying on color or smell alone. Another overlooked factor is what happens after the purchase. Even perfectly safe ground beef can become unsafe if it's left in a warm car, stored incorrectly, or undercooked at home. Food safety doesn't end at the checkout lane. It continues in your kitchen. That makes grocery stores only one part of the equation. Consumers play an equally important role. Yet, one retailer remains, and it represents the biggest lesson of this entire investigation. Number 1. Any grocery store where you ignore the warning signs this may not be the answer you expected, but it's the most important one. The greatest risk isn't always a specific grocery chain, it's buying ground beef without paying attention. Ignoring damaged packaging, ignoring unusual odors, ignoring recall announcements, ignoring safe storage, ignoring cooking temperatures. Those small decisions matter far more than many people realize. Public recall records show that affected beef has been sold through a wide variety of retailers over the years. Large chains, regional supermarkets, warehouse clubs, discount stores. No retailer is completely immune when a supplier experiences a problem. That's why experts consistently recommend focusing on the product, not just the store. Look closely, read labels, check dates, follow recall notices, and always cook ground beef to the USDA recommended internal temperature of 160F 71C. That single habit dramatically reduces the risk from harmful bacteria. Now that we've explored where extra caution can make a difference, let's look at 4 grocery chains that stand out for reasons shoppers appreciate. Not because they're perfect, but because they've built strong reputations for quality, transparency, and consistent meat programs. 4 grocery chains that stand out. Number 4, Costco. Costco's meat department has developed a loyal following. One reason is volume. Its warehouses move enormous amounts of fresh meat every day. High turnover means products often spend less time sitting in refrigerated cases. The company also works with large suppliers and follows strict quality control procedures. That doesn't eliminate recalls. No retailer can promise that. But many shoppers value Costco's consistent standards and clear product labeling. Number 3, Whole Foods Market. Whole Foods has long emphasized sourcing standards and transparency. Many beef products include detailed information about production practices and supplier programs. For consumers who want to know more about where their food comes from, that extra information can make comparison shopping much easier. Transparency doesn't automatically mean safer food, but it helps customers make more informed choices. Number 2, Wegmans. Wegmans has built its reputation around fresh departments. Its meat counters are often staffed by knowledgeable employees who can answer questions about cuts, preparation, and sourcing. Many customers appreciate having direct access to staff instead of relying solely on package labels. That personal interaction adds another layer of confidence for shoppers who want more information before buying. Number 1, local butcher shops and quality regional markets. Sometimes the strongest option isn't the biggest chain at all. Independent butcher shops and high-quality regional markets often know exactly where their beef comes from. Many grind meat in smaller batches. Some even grind beef throughout the day rather than relying entirely on prepackaged products. That level of transparency gives customers the opportunity to ask questions directly. Where did this beef come from? When was it ground? How should it be stored? Those conversations are difficult to have in a large supermarket. They're often much easier at a trusted local butcher. What every shopper should do, regardless of where you shop, remember these simple habits. Check the sell-by or use-by date. Avoid packages with tears, leaks, or excessive liquid. Keep ground beef cold and refrigerated promptly. Wash hands and surfaces after handling raw meat. Use a food thermometer and cook ground beef to 160 F71C. Pay attention to Ooster recall announcements. These steps matter far more than choosing a single perfect grocery store, because food safety is built through layers of protection: farm, processor, distributor, retailer, and finally, your own kitchen. The biggest surprise isn't that recalls happen. It's that most shoppers never see the complex system operating behind a simple package of ground beef. From processing plants to refrigerated trucks, from distribution centers to grocery shelves, every package has already traveled a long road before it reaches your cart. Most of the time, that system works remarkably well. But when it doesn't, understanding how it works gives you something many consumers never have: awareness. And awareness leads to better decisions. So the next time you reach for a package of ground beef, don't just compare the price. Look a little closer. Read the label. Check the packaging. Think about the journey that meat has already taken. Because the safest shopper isn't the one who buys from a famous store. It's the one who knows what to look for before the package ever leaves the shelf.